Again, Peyton Manning had 55 touchdowns in that year, 2013, when he set the record as far as yards go. That's also an NFL record for touchdowns in a single season, 55. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host, and I'm back looking at another team from the AFC West. Before I go any further, let me just let you know that I am recording in a hotel room. I'm on the road, and I'll be on the road for probably at least a week and a half, and not at the same place all the time. So we'll just have to see how this works. Hopefully I can get it all working properly, my various screens and so forth. But I didn't want to wait until I got back, as I wanted to keep moving through each of these teams in the NFL as we all wait for the NFL season to begin. I wanted to have every team done before that happens. So we are in the AFC West, as I said, wrapped up the first and second place teams, Kansas City and the Chargers. Today we're looking at the Denver Broncos, and who finished in third place. So there's only two teams to go, Denver and Kansas City, and then we'll be done with the AFC as a whole. So we're going to keep moving with that. So as I said, Denver Broncos finished in third place. They had a record of 10 wins, 7 losses. At home, they were 6-2, and on the road, 4-5. And in the division, they were 3-3. And they did make the playoffs as a wild card team. So as we move on, I'll talk more about that as we get farther into the stats and so forth. But as usual, we will start with the coaches. Mike Shanahan, the coach of the Denver Broncos with the most wins. He has 138 wins. He was the coach from 1995 to 2008. 13 playoff games. He won 8 of those, and he had 2 championships. So impressive record for him. He passed Dan Reeves, who had been the top coach for the Broncos. He had 110. And after that, there's a huge drop-off. Currently, Sean Payton has 18. Excuse me. Sean Payton has 18. He'll easily move into 6th place. He only needs 4 wins to move into 6th. But after that, it'll be another season or 2 before he moves into 3rd. 3rd place is John Fox with 46. So Sean Payton can hang around for a few more seasons. He'll make it to 3rd. I don't know that he'll hang around long enough to get to the 110 mark of Dan Reeves or higher. So we'll just have to wait and see. Kind of doubt it, but since this is not his first coaching gig. So those are your top coaches. Let's start with the offense, all-time career offense, and we'll look at the quarterbacks. And, of course, Mr. Denver Bronco in my eyes, I think, and that is John Elway is as far as yards go, had 51,475 yards passing to be the all-time Denver Bronco in yards. Peyton Manning was second with 17,112. Now, of course, John Elway was the quarterback from 1983 to 1998, so 15 years. Well, Peyton Manning was only there for 3 years, good years, but he had the 17,112 to finish second with the team. Those are your top 2 quarterbacks. Bo Nix, already 17th all-time. And, in just 1 year, if he has the same type of record, he'll probably easily move up into 8th place all-time, top 10 at least. So he'll be on his way, a long way to catch John Elway, but he definitely shouldn't have any problem passing everybody else in the next few years and move into 2nd, and then we'll see after that. But that's your all-time leader as far as the passing game goes in yards. When we're looking at TDs, again, John Elway had 300 TDs. Peyton Manning had 140 touchdowns passing. And Peyton Manning, between playing for the Broncos and the Colts, is third all-time in passing touchdowns in a career with 535, only behind Tom Brady, who had 649, and Drew Brees, who had 571. So Peyton Manning was 140 of those 539 came with the Denver Broncos. When we're looking at interceptions, again, John Elway, obviously it's just because he's played so many years, but he had 226 interceptions, the most for the team. Second was Frank Tribuca, 1960 to 1963, who had 85 in just 3 years. And obviously the difference is when you look at the passing interception percentage rate, John Elway threw an interception every 3.1% of the time, but Frank Tribuca threw interception every 6.7%. So that's, if Tribuca had played half the time John Elway had, he would have passed Elway. But Elway is the leader in interceptions all time for the team. And when it comes to sack, obviously he's going to be there too. John Elway, number one, 516 times he was sacked, which is the most. And in fact, that 516 puts him seventh all time as far as sacks go. Only 8 quarterbacks have been sacked at least 500 times. John Elway with 516. Russell Wilson is fourth. I'm looking at active players. Aaron Rodgers is first, so he's just going to extend his lead. He passed Fran Tarkenton last year by 571 times Aaron Rodgers has been sacked in his career. Fran Tarkenton second with 570. But Russell Wilson could move up there as well. We'll see what his playing status is this year. And then the other one, Matthew Stafford, probably will pass John Elway. Matthew Stafford's the last person who moved into the 500 times being sacked. He has 502, so only 14 sacks and he'll catch John Elway, which seems likely. 14 isn't really that many in a season for a quarterback to have. So John Elway, though, is number 7 currently as far as the sacks go. Now, when we're looking at the running backs and career-wise for Denver, Terrell Davis is number 1. From 1995 to 2001, he had 7,607 yards. Floyd Little was second from 1967 to 1975. He had 6,323. Now, these are, with this kind of yardage, this is something that if they can hang on to a running back, find somebody they like and keep him. Like they had Javonte Williams, but he's gone. He was in 2024, he had moved up to number 13, but he's gone. For whatever reason, no one's hanging around long enough to move up this list. So we'll see what happens this year with the new running back and so forth. But currently, there's no one even close to these numbers, and these numbers aren't that great. I mean, Terrell Davis with 7,600 yards is not an overwhelming number if you can get a running back that stays with a team for more than one what am I thinking of here? One contract, got to stay his rookie contract and then a second contract, and you would think he'd definitely have a chance. But yeah, Terrell Davis, number 1. When we're looking at touchdowns, again, Terrell Davis with 60 touchdowns rushing. Floyd Little had 43. Those are your top 2. And again, there's really, as far as running backs go, there's really nobody competing with those top 2 players. So let's look at the wide receivers, tight ends, and so forth and see what we have there. Rod Smith from 1995 to 2006 is number 1. He had 11,389 yards in reception yards. Demaryius Thomas was second with 9,055. He played from 2010 to 2018. So those are your top 2. And after that, it steadily declines. Now, Cortland Sutton, who's from 2018 to 2024, has 5,340 yards. So Cortland Sutton would be the one player who has a chance to start moving up this list. If he was to have 1,000-yard season, which isn't out of the realm of possibility at all, you would think he definitely has a shot at that. He would move up to number 5 all time on the team. So we'll see how it goes, but that's the one individual that has a chance to move up into the top 10. When we're going to receptions, Rod Smith, again, with 849 receptions. Now, Shannon Sharp is second with 675. He was a top tight end for the team in receptions and in yards. As far as tight ends go, he had 8,439 yards. So he was the number one tight end, and that put him third all time with the team as far as receivers altogether. So impressive as a tight end. When we're looking at touchdowns for the team, Rod Smith again, 68. Demaryius Thomas was close behind with 60, and then Shannon Sharp again with 55. So those are your leaders in touchdowns. When we're going back to receptions, as I said, Cortland Sutton currently has 379. So again, 100 receptions, not even that many really. He'll easily move into 5th. He only needs about 80, 73, and he'll move into 5th. So that should not be a problem at all. 4th is a little ways away. Lionel Taylor had 543. Cortland Sutton won't get there, but if he plays again next year, definitely has a chance to move easily into 4th and maybe into, depending on how he does this year, actually moving all the way to 2nd. So be somebody to watch this year and then next year as far as receptions go. And the TDs again, Cortland Sutton's 11. He has 32. And only needs 1 to move into the top 10. So we'll see how he does there. A little bit farther down the list as far as touchdowns go, but not too bad. All right. Now, when we're looking at the defense, Denver's always had, or generally had, a good defense, all the way back to the Orange Crush and so forth. But when we're looking at the defense, in interception, Steve Foley from 1976 to 1986 had 44 interceptions. Goose Gonzalez from 1960, which is the first year of the team, to 1966 had 43. Those are your top 2. You had a couple of players from the 21st century get close. Champ Bailey from 2004 to 2013 had 34. That was your closest in the 21st century. Now, Patrick Surtain, excellent player himself, one of the best. Up to last year, he had been moving up the list. He had 11, just 11, so no one really that close to that 44 number. Now, when we're looking at tackles for loss, hopefully this is a category where you're going to see somebody current, and that is true with Von Miller from 2011 to 2021 as a Denver Bronco. He had 142 tackles for loss. That's an impressive number. And in fact, DJ Williams from 2004 to 2012 is second, but he only has 70. So a huge gap between the top 2. Nick Benito is the closest, and Nick Benito has from 2022 to this past season, but he's only got 30. So it's going to be a while before even anybody breaks the 100 tackles for loss number, let alone catch Von Miller. So he's really up there as far as that goes. And the same when we're looking at sacks, a little bit closer for the second place guy, but it's Von Miller again with 110.5 sacks in a season. Simon Fletcher, who played from 1985 to 1995, had 97.5 sacks. Now, this is a number you usually see more players from more recent, but only other than Von Miller, you go all the way down to the 8th with Elvis Dermaville, who had 63.5 sacks from 2006 to 2012. So really, there's a couple of guys, again, Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper, 23 and 23 and a half respectively. So, but they're way behind Von Miller as far as the sack totals go. So it's going to be a long time before anybody approaches Von Miller. But that's how it goes when you have somebody who was a great player. All right, let's look at the single season numbers. And we'll start again with the quarterbacks and see how they look there. And we'll compare that with some of the players throughout the NFL for last year. So the single leader, Peyton Manning, has the top 3 spots. His 3 years there. 2013, he had 5,477 yards passing, which set the NFL record, which he beat Drew Brees by 1 yard. So while a Denver Bronco, Peyton Manning set the record as far as most yards in a single season. When you compare that to the quarterback, Bo Nix was 11th for the team. He had 3,775 yards, but he's a rookie. Not bad, really, as far as rookie goes. I don't know if he was ever going to get the 5,000 mark. That's a difficult number to reach. It's only happened 15 times. Drew Brees did it 4 of those 15 times. So, but even to hit 4,000 plus would be a nice improvement for Bo Nix. But he had a good rookie season for sure. And when you're comparing that to this past season, as I've always said, Joe Burrow led the NFL with 4,918 yards passing. So very impressive. Bo Nix was 12th in the NFL last season as far as passing yards go. So he had a good season. When we're looking at touchdowns, again, Peyton Manning had 55 touchdowns in that year, 2013, when he set the record as far as yards go. That's also an NFL record for touchdowns in a single season, 55. Very impressive. Only 3 times has it happened. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes also threw for 50 exactly. Only times that a quarterback's thrown for 50 touchdowns. So quite a impressive number. And in fact, again, Peyton Manning holds the top 3 spots. Bo Nix, believe it or not, even over John Elway. John Elway never threw more than 27 touchdowns in a single season. Bo Nix had 29 last year. That's a really good rookie number. I mean, when you're looking at his numbers, 29 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, that's impressive for a rookie. Usually you see quite a few more interceptions in their rookie year. So very impressive quarterback. We'll see how he does in his sophomore year. I mean, any improvement, it's really going to be an impressive team on the offense, as well as they already are, the Denver Broncos, on the defense. So when you're looking at Bo Nix with his 29 touchdowns this past season, again, it was in the NFL, it was Joe Burrow had 43 touchdowns passing. And then with 29, Bo Nix was 6th in the NFL with 29. So a good number. Really not bad. When we're looking at interceptions all time in a single season, Frank Tribuca in 1960, which was the team's first year, threw 34 interceptions. That year he had 24 touchdowns, 34 interceptions. So that by far is the highest total. Like I said, Nix only had 12. So when we're looking at the entire NFL last season as far as interceptions go, Baker Mayfield for Tampa, Kirk Cousins for Atlanta, who didn't even play an entire season, 14 games, and Geno Smith for Seattle all had 16 interceptions. So those led the NFL. And then coming up, Bo Nix was tied for 4th with several players with 12. Probably Kirk Cousins, if he'd have played 17 games, would have had even more than 16 interceptions. But that was the lead as far as interceptions go. And when we're looking at sacks, Russell Wilson in 2022 was sacked 55 times. Craig Morton in 1981 was sacked 54. Only 2 quarterbacks that were sacked 50 times or more as a Denver Bronco. When we're looking at Bo Nix. Bo Nix is, I would have thought he'd even be higher. I'm looking for Bo Nix as far as most times sacked. Wow. I can't even find him on this list. You know he's here somewhere. All right. Okay. Bo Nix last season, sorry about that, 46th as far as the Denver Broncos sacked 24 times. That's really good. 46 times he was sacked at a 4.1% rate, while when Russell Wilson, when he was sacked 55 times, was sacked at a 10.2% rate. So quite a huge difference. No wonder I couldn't find Bo Nix. He was so far down the list. When we're looking at the entire NFL, unlike another rookie, Bo Nix had a great number. Caleb Williams was on the other end of that as a rookie. He was sacked 68 times, which put him tied for third all time as far as most sacks in a single season. Only David Carr, who was sacked 76 times in 2002, and Randall Cunningham in 1986 was sacked 72. So those are your top two, and Caleb Williams comes in at third. You won't last long if you're getting sacked 68 times a season. So new coach and everything in Chicago, we'll see what happens there. But Bo Nix already has a nice 24 times in 17 games. Really is an impressive number. So a very good season so far for Bo Nix as a rookie. When we're looking at the running backs last season and comparing that to all seasons for the Denver Broncos, Terrell Davis in 1998 rushed for 2,008 yards, the number one amount. He has a second number as well in 1997. The year before, he rushed for 1,750 yards. So those are the big numbers, the highest totals. And again, the way that Denver ran the ball last season, there was nobody dominating the numbers here. And so they really had nobody who was doing that well that I can see. Hang on one second here. All right. So as far as running backs, there was really nobody. Javonte Williams had 513 yards. So again, we'll see what happens this year as far as running backs go. Jaleel McLaughlin had 496. Whether they change and have one dominating running back, or if they consider with this or continue to go with a group of running backs, we'll just see. But you're not going to see anybody approach these types of numbers that Terrell Davis was putting up, or Clinton Portis even. So, yeah, when it comes to the entire NFL this last season, as far as running backs go, number one was, of course, Saquon Barkley with 2,005 yards. So obviously almost 4 times more than anybody for Denver. Just wasn't the way Denver wants to do it with that single running back like Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. But we'll see what this next season brings. When we're looking at touchdowns all time, again, it's Terrell Davis. He had 21 touchdowns in 1998, the year that he had the 2,000 yards rushing. And that 2,008 yards rushing put him at number 6 all time as far as rushing yards in a single season. 8 times a running back has rushed for 2,000 or more yards. Saquon Barkley was the 8th time it happened. He just did it last year. So that puts Terrell Davis in some impressive company. Again, Derrick Henry didn't do it last year, but in 2020, he was also on this list. So you got a couple players that are currently playing. But Terrell Davis, for the time he was playing, was a really good running back. And when it comes to touchdowns, again, with that 21 touchdowns in a single season, that ties him for 6th all time in a single season with 21. LaDainian Tomlinson holds the record with 28 in a single season. But only 11 times has somebody rushed for 20 or more touchdowns in a single season. So it's a very small list of people who have done it. Priest Holmes did it twice. So Emmitt Smith also twice that he had at least 20. But very small list. So that was a great season for Terrell Davis. And when you're comparing that to this past season, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, and James Cook all had 16 touchdowns for the season. So, again, you don't have anybody as far as Denver goes who's anywhere up in the up the list at all. An area where obviously they're going to be looking for some improving in this next season. In fact, Bo Nix had 4 to lead the team as far as rushing touchdowns go. So him and Javonte Williams each had 4. So they tied. And not often you're going to see your quarterback. Some teams, I guess, you'll see the quarterback up there, but it's not a number you're always going to see. And only 4 anyway. It's not like it was a lot. All right, let's look at the receivers all time. And again, Rod Smith had 113 receptions in 2001. Demaryius Thomas had the next couple of spots, and Brandon Marshall had the next 3. So those are your top players. Only 10 times has a wide receiver had 100 receptions or more, and Brandon Marshall had 3 of those. Demaryius Thomas had a couple of them. So that's it. Cortland Sutton would be the one guy. He had 81 in this past season, which put him 25th on the team all time for the Denver Broncos. He's somebody you could see possibly hit the 100 reception mark. And it's something that it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility the way the NFL is. Even for this team, I would definitely think it would be an area where they would improve as Bo Nix just gets a better grasp of the game overall. This past season, it was Jamar Chase who had 127 receptions to lead the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 115 receptions. And in fact, the reason I say that it's not out of the realm of possibility, there was 10 players last season that had 100 more receptions. So with 82, Cortland Sutton, or 81, I should say, was tied for 21st in the NFL. So it's an area where you'll see a chance for him to improve this next season. When we're looking at yards, this is where Demaryius Thomas has the highest number over Rod Smith by just a few yards. Demaryius Thomas in 2014 had 1,619 yards. Rod Smith in 2000 had 1,602. Those are your top 2 as far as Denver Broncos go. And again, when we're looking at Cortland Sutton, even though he had the 81 receptions, he did break the 1,000-yard mark, and he's number 33 as far as Denver Broncos go. He had 1,081 yards last season. He averaged 13.3 yards per reception. So not a bad number, kind of right there in the general ballpark of a lot of teams. And again, just as Joe Burrow led as far as quarterbacks and playing for Cincinnati, Jamar Chase, also on the Cincinnati Bengals, led as far as all the receiving categories go. Jamar Chase had 1,708 yards to lead the NFL, topping Justin Jefferson, who was the closest. He was a couple hundred yards behind, and then Brian Thomas was third. He was another almost 420 yards behind. So Jamar Chase had an excellent season. Cortland Sutton was right in the middle of the pack, kind of was 16th as far as most yards with his 1,081. Finished 16th in the NFL as far as yards go. So not too bad. And then when we're looking at touchdowns, in a single season. Demaryius Thomas and Anthony Miller, who played in 1995, each had 14. Demaryius Thomas did it in 2013. So those are your top two. So it's been a long time since anybody's had even 14. Eric Decker in 2012, that's a ways back at 13. So it's been quite a long time to see a wide receiver, tight end, any of them get up this list. In fact, Cortland Sutton last season, he finished 28th as far as Denver Broncos go with 8 touchdown receptions. So maybe an area where you might see some improvement. If he has 100 receptions, and you'll have more yards with 100 receptions and probably a couple more touchdowns at least. Very possible he hits 10 touchdown receptions next season. But Jamar Chase again led the NFL with touchdowns with 17. And McLaughlin for Washington had 13. Those are your top two. With 8, Cortland Sutton finished 13th. So those are your top wide receivers in a single season. When you're looking at tight ends, very interesting that even though Shannon Sharpe was a great tight end, the best he did was number 18th all time as far as the team goes. In 1994, he had 87 receptions. So a lot of teams, at least usually, almost every team I've seen, at least one player is a tight end who makes the top 10 in receptions, but not the Denver Broncos. Really just Shannon Sharpe. So, it kind of shows you sometimes a style of play that is different than another team and why that would happen. All right. When we're looking at the defense in a single season, as far as interceptions go, Goose Gonsolin in 1960, again, the first year of the team, had 11 interceptions. So since then, no one's ever gotten to 11 in a single season. Champ Bailey in 2006, much more recent, he had 10. So a good number, 10 for somebody, especially in the 21st century. Okay, sorry about that. Kirby Joseph had 9 to lead the NFL last season. That's a good number. You don't see that too often, even though the second best team player, Xavier McKinney, had 8. So really some good numbers last season. When you're looking at Denver, Patrick Surtain had 4. That's not bad, really. So he led the Denver Broncos as far as this past season goes. When we're looking at tackles for loss all time in a single season, this is where Von Miller stands out. Von Miller in 2012 had 28 tackles for loss in a single season. That's an amazing number, really. The only player who's been better than that is J.J. Watt. In fact, J.J. Watt holds the top 3 spots. In 2012, J.J. Watt had 39 tackles for loss. 2014 and 2015, he had 29 tackles for loss. So 28 tackles for loss ties Von Miller for 4th all time as far as that goes. He's tied with Chandler Jones with the Arizona Cardinals. He had 28. So, in fact, the year that J.J. Watt had 39 is the same year that Von Miller had 28. So, I'm sure Von Miller thought he was having a great season, and he was, but J.J. Watt was just out of this world as far as tackles for loss go. This past season, in comparison, Myles Garrett had 22. And we're looking at Von Miller. In 2011, he had 22, and in 2012, he had 23. So he had 3 years where he had more than 20 tackles for loss. Myles Garrett this past season was the only one with more than 20. He had 22. Trey Hendrickson for Cincinnati had 19. Those were your top 2 tackle for loss. Nick Bonito came in at number 9. He had 16, which isn't bad. But again, quite a ways from the numbers you see here. But we'll see how Nick Bonino does. Much younger player, but impressive. Zach Allen was 15th with 15, so a couple of good players right there as far as tackles for loss when you combine them together. And then when we look at sacks all time, again, Von Miller in 2012, that same year, had 18 and a half sacks to have the highest number for the Denver Broncos. Elvis Demeril in 2009 had 17. So those are your top two when it comes to sacks. This past season, Trey Hendrickson had 17 and a half sacks. Myles Garrett was second with 14. And then Nick Bonito came in at third with 13 and a half sacks. So he had a good year this past season. Very impressive young man to watch, and we'll see how he does this next season. Denver's going to have an unbelievable defense. It was already good last year, and they just added some impressive players this next from the free agency and the draft. It's going to be a very possible one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL next year. Going to just be an oppressive defense, and it might be what puts them over the top as far as finally knocking Kansas City out of the top spot this next season. In fact, that is my prediction that Denver Broncos will finish first in their division. It's going to be tough, obviously. This is one of the better divisions in the NFL. I mean, with the Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Denver, and not even counting the Raiders, who have also improved quite a bit. But so it's going to be a dogfight in that division. But with an improving offense, and then an already great defense becoming even better, I do see the possibility of Denver finally knocking off Kansas City and moving into first place. So that's something we'll be watching coming up in the 2025 season, something to look forward to, and we'll see how it goes. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders, the last place team of the AFC West. And in fact, that will wrap up the entire AFC. And after that, we will move over to the NFC, look at some of those teams. So stick around as I finish up the AFC. And if you want to hear your favorite team from the AFC, if you haven't listened to the previous podcast, go back and you'll find it. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. That helps, as I have just started this new podcast this season in the off season. So during the slow time, but it's going to be up and roaring as we move closer and closer to the start of the season. So I thank you for listening, and that is a wrap for this episode of Just the Stats. So until next time, I'm out.